everybody! Welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name is Erin and I am turning off all my gadgets so we have less noise. I'm really sorry about that. My name is Erin and today I'm going to do something kind of a little bit different. I've had some people asking me to do color alongs and the like. So I'm going to try to start one. I can't make any promises that I'm going to be able to finish it because my children are going to be coming home from their summer vacation with their dad and things are going to get a little hectic, but I can definitely start something for you. And hopefully we'll get it finished. Hopefully. It's been a busy month for me the way it is. It may take some time, but we'll see what happens. So I'm all settled in here. I have everything that I need, my pencil sharpener, my shavings. Today I'm drinking a Venom energy drink. Yes, I'm aware that they are not good for me. I know this actually happens to be low calorie though, so I'm being careful with that. And I do drink these in moderation. It's not an everyday thing by any means, maybe once a week. But I do want to be able to get through this, and this may turn out to be a long video, so we're going to see what happens. Anyway, so here's kind of what I want to do. This is my thought process. A lot of you guys have been talking about struggling to use the Polychromos, and I know that I did a series on the Prismacolors a while back, and it helped a lot of people out. So rather than doing an entire series on the Polychromos, I figured I would do a color along with them, and I would do it in this book because I'm absolutely dying to color in it. This is Nice Little Town 5 by Tanya Bogema Stolova. And what I'm going to do is kind of show you guys my process, what I do when I start a new page, kind of how I handle everything, where I keep all my stuff, that kind of thing. But before we get started with this, number one, it is going to be a color along. I am going to tell you what colors I'm using. It is going to be in Nice Little Town 5, and it is going to be with Polychromos. So I am just going to answer all the questions and comments and stuff that I normally get about color alongs before people ask them or say them, because the odds that I'm going to have time to go back and answer everyone's questions or comments in the comment section down below, I'm probably not going to have that kind of time. So I'm just going to go ahead and address everything now, and I hope it doesn't come off as mean or rude because it's really not supposed to. The number one thing that I get is, well, I don't have that book. And if you don't have this book, I am really, really sorry. Unfortunately, there is only one of me, and there are 10,000 of you guys, YouTuber subscribers. I cannot possibly choose any one coloring book that every single person is going to have. It is absolutely impossible. So I just do my best at this point. You know, I'm the one coloring the picture, so I'm just going to pick whatever book happens to appeal to me, and right now it's this one. It's relatively affordable right now. I think it's like $9 on Amazon. I do believe that she sells her books on Etsy, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they're actually cheaper in the digital form if you guys want to get it and print it. If you don't have it, you don't have to color in this book with me. There's no rule that says you have to do this color along with me. These videos will stay on YouTube for, years to come. So if you get the book later down the road and you want to come back and follow along then, you are more than welcome to. Another question I'm probably going to get, well, I don't have the Polychromos. I don't have those pencils. If you don't have these pencils, and I understand that not everybody's going to, these are not your everyday budget-friendly pencils. These are quite high-end. However, I do have people asking me techniques and tips and tricks to use them. So I figure it's a good opportunity because this is Create Space paper. I do like the way the Polychromos color on Create Space paper. So I figure that combining the two is going to be a really, really good opportunity for me to kind of get those tips and tricks out there. If you don't have the Polychromos, you are welcome to follow along with whatever you have in any colors you want and any book you have. Just because I'm coloring in this book with the Polychromos and giving tips, that does not mean that you absolutely have to also. If you want to buy the book, you are certainly welcome to go and do so, then come back and catch up when you get it. I would not recommend going out and spending $150 on the 120 set of Polychromos just to follow along in this color along though. Please don't do that. If you have them, wonderful. If you don't, follow along with whatever you have. Another question I get is, well, can you tell me what color that is in Prismacolor? Can you tell me what color that is in the Heroes? Can you tell me what color that is in XYZ? Unfortunately, I cannot. I don't have access to that kind of information. Sitting down and swatching all that out, I think I know of one person who's done it. And she said it took her a grand total of like 60 hours to sit down and figure out what what color matches what in all these different sets. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time on my hands. If you need to, you can kind of pause my video and look at a color and gauge what it matches in what you have. That's kind of the best advice I have for you. There are some resources out there that you can buy that will tell you which colors match other colors in different sets. You just kind of have to search around for them. I don't know off the top of my head what they are. I know that Pam Proctor did one. She has one on her Etsy store. I don't know what she's charging for it, but I know that she did like Prismacolor, Polychromos, Lyra, and a few others. But unfortunately, it's just not, I don't have that kind of time to do that for you guys. And if I tell you no, I can't, it's not because I'm being mean. It's just that it's a lot of work to sit down and match every single color and answer every single comment like that. So just to kind of put everything into perspective here, guys, this is what I'm going to be doing in this book. I'm going to be doing it with Polychromos. If you're able to follow along and you want to follow along, that's wonderful. If you don't have the book or the pencils to follow along, just color what you have. It's not the end of the world either way. So this is the picture I'm going to be coloring. I like it because it's got, you know, a nice little bit of sky in the background. It's got the mushroom houses. It's got like a little pond, or I don't know what this is, like a little drainage thing over here. And of course the little mouse cleaning her rug on the outside. So whenever I start a new picture, the first thing that I want to do is, number one, I'm going to find, this is a cutting mat that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. They come 2 in a pack. So basically what I did was I stuck one inside my book, and I took a pair of scissors and just cut it to fit. Now it is thin and it did leave a sharp edge, so I put some washi around the edge here so I wouldn't accidentally cut myself on that sharp edge, and that just stays behind my book. And this way I don't waste paper. So for about $2 I have enough of these to fit 4 coloring books, 5 or 6 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think 6. I got 6 out of $2. And of course the slight investment in the washi type. So once I have my picture selected, I will stick a flag on, and that's step number 1. So step number 2 is, because I store all of my pencils for everything I'm using in these pastel drawers. There are 3 of them, and so they're divided into sections, as you can see. Now what I do is I take a little note card, and I write the name of the coloring book, and I named this picture Rug Cleaning. These pictures don't have any names in them, so I named them myself. So nice little Town 5 Rug Cleaning. I'm going to stick this right here. And when I'm finished coloring, all the pencils I was using are going to go in this section, so I know where they are. I also take my little Rocketbook here that I bought. I put the name of the book in the picture and the pencils I'm using up here, and then I will write down the color. I will write down the colors I used for everything on this sheet, so that if somebody comes and asks me later, oh, well, what colors did you use for this or that, they're all right here. The reason I like the Rocketbook is because I can just mark something down here, snap a photo of it, and automatically send it off to like my Google Drive or a OneNote or OneDrive or any of that, and it's there forever. I just wipe it clean, erase it, and start all over. So this way, if somebody sees a picture that I colored 3 years from now and says, oh my goodness, what color is that? I can go back through my files and look and actually tell them what it is. So this is really helpful for me, especially, you know, being that I do the YouTube channel and that I do manage a Facebook group and people ask me all kinds of questions. This just helps me stay organized so I can answer all those questions. So this is all ready now, so I can put this aside. So I also have my Polychromos here. I've got them all out and ready to go. The only thing I'm not 100% certain where I've put it is my, there's my Polychromos color combo chart that will come in handy for certain. My tablet is on and dinging. I am so sorry, guys. Let me look for my Polychromos swatch chart, which is here somewhere, I think. It may be still in the binder, so I'm going to pull that out. This will help me pick my colors. Maybe. It may be in here. We'll have to see. There it is. There's my Polychromos. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of my binder so I have it handy. This is just what I do to prepare to color. Isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? I have all this stuff. And I'm not saying that you guys have to do this. Like I said, I mean, people ask me all kinds of questions about things. And so I kind of feel bad when I have to say, I don't know, I don't remember. So I'm trying to set it up in such a way that I can remember, you know, what I'm doing and what colors I use. So here's my combo chart. If I come across a combo that I really like while I'm coloring, I'll stick it in one of these and I will write the names of the colors down. These are available in the Simple Art for Adults Facebook group. If you join the group and go to the files, you will find them there. These were donated by the lovely JC Radican. So if you want some of these, you can find them there. Swatch chart came from Jennifer Stay at Coloring Pages Bliss. Well, it's Coloring Bliss now. It's no longer Coloring Pages Bliss. These are my favorite swatch charts out of all of them I've ever seen. I like the way they're set up. I'm used to seeing them. There's plenty of room to do my light to dark gradients in here to see what all is available to me. So I really do like this. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is... I know, guys, isn't it hilarious? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at my picture and I'm going to think, well, I have these mushrooms here and I have a tree, so I've got wood, I've got grass, I've got all kinds of things I want to color. So I want to try to pick a color palette. Now, I'm not sure how well this is going to work for you guys considering, ooh, wow, that's fingerprinty. I don't know if the frame rate's going to really let you guys see what's happening here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Pinterest on my tablet. I'm going to go into my Pinterest account. I'm going to click on me on my saved pins. And then I'm going to try to find a palette of some kind that, you know, I don't have to stick to it exactly. But I want to try to find some kind of palette. So I've got autumn palettes, bright palettes, earth tones, blue. I don't know how this red one got in the blues. That's kind of weird. There's my finished pages. I think that something like, where'd my earth ones go? Right here. This one's kind of cute. I kind of like this one because like these colors can be for the mushrooms and then we have these colors for the ground. Of course, we're going to have to add some to it because it's really not going to do enough. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. So, let's see. I'm going to download the image first and foremost. I'm going to put it on my tablet, and I'm going to show you guys a really cool little trick. Alright, so now that it's saved, I'm going to go into my apps, and I have an app called Color Picker for Artists. This is available on both Android and Apple. I don't know if it's available for Windows phones. It is $7.99. It's a one-time purchase, so it's not a subscription. And let me show you what it does. So when you open it up, it gives you two options. You've got colored pencils and graphite. So I'm going to select colored pencil since I'm doing my piece in colored pencil. Then I'm going to add a photo. Here's my photo thing up here. And you guys, I don't know what all pictures are in here. Just a bunch of coloring stuff. So I'm going to select my color palette. And it's going to put it in the app for me. So now what I do is I'm going to touch a color, and down here where it says Luminance, Prismacolor, Polychromos, and Derwent, it's going to tell me what color is closest to that. So once I touch this, it's telling me that that color is going to be Chrome Oxide Green Fiery in Polychromos, which is helpful. But what I want to do is start out with my mushrooms, which are going to be these colors down here. So I'm going to look and see what colors it tells me to use. So we got gold in the Polychromos. The gold is actually metallic though, so I don't really think I want to use the gold. Try to find a... We could go with green gold. I think green gold would work. And green gold. So we'd have green gold, and then we would have cinnamon. Green gold, cinnamon, and burnt ochre. So let's look for those colors. And guys, you don't have to do this either. This is just, you know, kind of like some cool tricks that I've discovered along the way. So I'm getting my green gold. I can find the cinnamon. cinnamon. And what was that last one again? Burnt ochre. And that is going to be, I don't know where burnt ochre even is in this set of pencils. Isn't that hilarious? Let's look. Burnt ochre is right after the sanguine in my case. So, but I'm not kidding you guys, it's not where it is. That's where it says it should be, but that's not where it is. There it is right here. Here's my burnt ochre. I have got to fix this. Okay, so that's really as simple as it is. And guys, I keep this Pinterest. I've been trying to pay more attention to it lately so that I keep more combos in there. If you guys ever want any, they're free for you to use. Just go and pick them up, match your pencils to them, and see what you can do. You don't have to have the app to use it. I just think the app helps, especially when I see something like out in nature that I really like and I kind of want to match the colors, or I'm not sure what color to use for something. I think that app really does help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my lightest color here, which is my green gold in the Polychromos. I'm going to grab one of my little hand protector sheets here so I don't smudge stuff everywhere. I'm sorry if it makes a crinkly noise. And I'm just going to start down here at the bottom. Really light, guys, because these Polychromos are super pigmented. And this paper, the Create Space paper, is crazy toothy. It's got a really weird texture to it. And a lot of people really struggle to color on it and blend on it, but it is possible. I am literally for this just barely, and I'm going to zoom you guys in, I am just barely brushing the paper with my pencil, just like barely touching it. I'm like trying to restrain myself from adding pressure. The thing with the Polychromos is that they're different from the Prismacolor. With the Prismacolor pencils, you can kind of go in and smush your colors together when you're doing the whole blending and creating a gradient. You can't really do that so much with the Polychromos. You kind of have to be a little bit more meticulous with how you actually lay your colors down in the first place. If you go in too heavy, guys, you're just not going to get that blend that you want. And I know that a lot of you guys are anti-layering, anti-spending a lot of time on something. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know how to get the results that I get any faster than doing it this way. For me, the process of coloring slowly is relaxing. Watching things kind of build up over time. Starting out kind of looking like a hot mess, and then all of a sudden they look so much nicer once you get all your layers and stuff in there. That's the rewarding part of it for me. So if you're not a fan of coloring slowly, I don't know, this may not be the color along for you. I may not be the right person to teach you. I think we all tend to do things in our own way. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about coloring, is that there's really no wrong way or right way to do it. There's 100 different ways to get the same, well, roughly the same result. And the thing about it is, guys, is that we don't want what we do, or I don't want what I do to look exactly like what someone else does anyway. That kind of defeats the purpose of it for me. My goal is to have mine look kind of unique at the end. Alright, so I am now going in with cinnamon, which is the next color that was in the palette. And I'm just going to kind of go in close to the ground here. This is where I'm going to build up some more color. And you guys may not be able to see a whole lot of difference yet, but I promise that you will. I haven't tried these colors. I haven't tested this palette. I'm just taking the app's word for it. We're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna assume that the sun is just shining kind of straight down out of the sky too. So this little ledge, there's gonna be some shadow under here. Need to make sure I put that in there. And it's not gonna look real pretty at first. At this point, basically all I'm doing when I put my first layers down is marking where I want my colors to go. I'm still using the lightest pressure I possibly can, coloring in very small circles. Trying to be careful around the little blades of grass down here. I got some texture down here, so I need to make sure I get that all filled in real well. Okay, so I got my shadow under that little shelf. We're also going to have some shadow under here, so I'm going to go in and add that in. I'm not adding it very dark or really heavy. Just light pressure so I know where my colors are. I can kind of judge how far I want to bring these different colors out. So there's that shadow. Now we're going to have another shadow back here. I'm going to bring this one out too, all the way around this little lip of this roof. Still just super light pressure. Alright, so we've got texture here. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of the cinnamon just around the door frame. Down here. And then right around here. I want to put some on the edge because it makes it look a little bit more 3D. And then I'm also going to put it down around where this little mouse house mushroom gutter goes. It's just too cute. I love it. Alright, so finally I just need to get this little textured area here. And I want to make sure that I have all this color pulled out far enough from my liking. Now when you use a palette like the one that I pulled up, keep in mind that you can use other colors. The ones that are in that palette should just kind of be like the main ones if you really want your picture to represent that palette when you're done. There's no law that says you can't add other colors to it. You don't even have to use a palette at all. You can just go in and pick some colors and go to town. I'm going to go ahead and bring this cinnamon all the way up because it's a very short distance and I doubt there's going to be any sunlight there, really, if the sun's kind of directly overhead. Okay, and then just a little bit here on that very edge. And I like how this book doesn't go off into the binding. Makes it easier. Okay. So now I have my cinnamon in. And finally I'm going to take my burnt ochre, sharpen it up a little bit, and I'm going to go in and put my darkest colors where I want those. And that's going to be down here along the ground. And I'm not going to bring it up as high as I brought the cinnamon, because that cinnamon's going to help create that blend and that gradient. So I'm just going to put it right around the edges. And then once I do that, typically what I do is just kind of step away from it and look at it and make sure that I like the color placement. And then I'll go in and start darkening everything up and blending it out and making it look nice and smooth. Still just using light pressure. If I make a mistake or decide I don't want to color somewhere, If I use light pressure, it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to either cover it up or erase it than if I just go in and start burnishing right away. Alright, so I'm following the texture here. And I'm going to put some right around the edge just to make it look more three-dimensional. And again, underneath the mouse house gutter, pull it down a little bit to give it some shadow. And then I'm going to go underneath this shelf here, or the ledge, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit, not too much. And what I may actually end up doing is coming in with like a gray, like a dark gray, like a Payne's gray, to darken up and deepen up some of these shadows. Because again, one of my big things here lately is making sure that I've got plenty of contrast in my pages. When you have enough contrast between things, when your lights and darks are separated far enough apart in value, things look a whole lot nicer, in my opinion. So when I color these days, it's all about contrast for me. And I've been using a whole lot more of like blacks and dark grays than I normally would, just to kind of try to get that contrast. Alright, so now I'm coming along the edges here, and I'm going to put a little bit more right there. That little area where it all tucks back in there. And a little bit back here, more back here in the corner. And down here on the ground. Alright, so that's my base layer for this part of the mushroom house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom it out and kind of get a better overall look at it and make sure I like where my colors are placed. And I know that to you guys that kind of looks a little bit pale right now, and it's going to, because like you said, it's really, really light layers. This is how you start blending with your polychromos. This is how I do it. So if you want to try this type of technique, you are more than welcome to do so. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go see if I can find myself a nice warm dark brown that I can use, or maybe even a warm gray that I can use in here to give myself some deeper shadows, because I think I'm going to need them, and I will return very, very shortly. Alright everybody, welcome back. I know I was gone for a split second for you, but I had to go make a phone call, so I was gone for actually a few minutes. So what I did was I went and tried to find a darker color that I could use to kind of deepen my shadows up on here. And so I think I'm going to go with Indian Red. These are all kind of warm colors. The green gold isn't. It's just kind of serving as our base, which is okay, and I think it's going to do a good job. But our cinnamon and burnt ochre are kind of warm reddish brownish tones, and I think that the Indian Red is going to go very, very nicely with that. For those of you concerned about the political correctness of this color, please just remember that the name Indian Red is not meant to be a derogatory term for Native Americans. It's actually Indian as in the country, and the spices and the colors and things over there that they use. That's where the name comes from. I know some people have mentioned that before, so I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Now what I'm doing with this is I'm just going along the bottom of things where the darkest parts are going to be, and trying to decide how far I kind of want to bring that up. I'm just not sure. The thing I love so much about these polychromos is that you can just layer for days. If you use a light hand, you can just layer and layer and layer. And the Create Space paper, which is Amazon's publishing platform, the Create Space paper is not is not my favorite, and we all know that. I complain about it all the time, but the polychromos aren't too bad on it. It's nice and textured, so you can layer quite a bit with it. And you guys will see that at the end of this, once I have all my colors in place, I'll go in with my Prismacolor blender and I'll go over every little centimeter of it. A lot of people don't mind the tooth of their paper showing through when they have finished. I do. I don't like it. I want my picture to look almost painted when I'm finished. So I will go back through it with a blender. I don't feel like you guys have to do that. It's all up to what you like. You don't have to do exactly as I do or exactly as anyone else does. Please always, always remember that part of the fun of this is doing something that's unique. Creating something that's different from what anyone else has done. That's the fun part of this. You guys will notice I'm just kind of taking my Indian red here and going along the very edges where my shadows are. And I think I may want to bring it out just a little bit more, so I'm going to use a real light touch here and a circular motion. I think I'm zoomed in enough for you guys to see that. So I'm using a super light touch and a circular motion just to kind of feather that darkest color out, which will make it easier to blend it in when I'm finished. Alright, so I'm going to come back down here and do kind of the same. I'm going to bring that up just a little bit more. And this is kind of a process for me at first, because I really need to figure out where I want all these colors. I'm going to put just a little bit here where all the texture is too, and it'll just kind of help highlight that texture. I'm not putting it as dark in those areas, just a smidge, just a little bit. I think that's going to look a lot better, a lot nicer. Looks a little washed out on my computer screen, so I hope it doesn't look so washed out for you guys once I get it published. So now I'm going to go along the top here, just underneath the roof. And the first thing I'm going to do is outline it. I'm using a medium pressure here now because I have a couple layers down, so it's going to take a little bit more effort to get the color on the page. And then again, I'm just going to use a circular motion and feather that color down into the others. Very, very light. Rather than pushing harder, if I feel like you need more color, I'm just going to stay in that spot a little longer and continue to use that light pressure. And then just a little bit around here, just a tiny little bit. And then the same thing over here. Medium pressure to kind of outline. Knocking pencils around. And then very lightly feather the color down to make it easier to blend with the others. Your shadows, sometimes your shadows do have harsh lines. A lot of times they do. But in this case I don't really want it to be harsh lines. I want it to be a gentle transition from one color to the next. So now I'm using my Indian red on this side. Medium pressure. This is going to be my darkest color, so I can go ahead and use a little more pressure down in between where those blades of grass are, and then feather it up slowly. Lighten my pressure as I come up. So if it helps you guys when you're trying to do a gradient or blend, think of each little area as your paper, of the surface of your paper. Think of each little part of it like as a container. Every little square inch of the surface is like a container. And it can only hold so much. There's only so much of the color that it can hold. And if you fill it up too soon, you can't fit any more in there. So what you need to do as you're coloring is make sure that you're, with your pressure and where you put your color, that you're leaving enough room in that container to add more of the color on top of it before it gets full. So my goal when I'm done is to have my container completely full of color. But I want different mixes in different parts. I don't want all one color in the same part. And that explanation may or may not help. That's kind of how I view it. It will get full if you're not careful. And once it's full, you can't put anything else in there. So try to plan it out where you're not filling it up too soon and you still have room to add colors that you need to. Okay, so now that I have my darkest shadow color in, I'm going to come back in with my burnt ochre, which was the previous darkest color. It's the next darkest color. And I'm just going to go over everything. I'm going to go over all the dark area and I'm going to pull it up. And the same thing, the closer I get up to the center, the lighter my pressure is going to get. I don't want to fill up my paper too soon. Now down here, if it gets full, that's okay, because I don't have any other colors that are going to go down here. But up this way, I still have to put lighter colors in there, so I have to be careful. It's better to use a light hand and short strokes and just keep going over the same place a few times if you feel like that's what you need to do, than to try to go in and accidentally go in too hard and then you flatten the tooth of your paper and your container's full. Trying to keep it where you guys can see what I'm doing here. And again, I'm just using light to medium pressure, small circles, trying to blend this burnt ochre down into the Indian reds without having any visible lines left over. You know what I did, guys? I didn't put any of the red down under the ledge, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to bring my Indian red back in, and I'm going to go right here under this side, and then I'm going to go right here under this. Just like before, I'm going to feather it down. I knew something didn't seem right. Small circles, light strokes. There we go. Then I'm going to take my burnt ochre and go over that as well. And just to kind of blend it in. A lot of this just takes some practice and, you know, figuring out through action how much pressure you need to put on your pencils at what point to get the results you want. And remember that your pencils, every brand of pencils is going to act completely different on different types of paper too. So the way your polychromos behave on one type of paper doesn't necessarily predict how they're going to behave on a different type of paper, and you kind of have to be prepared for that. So until you're very confident with coloring in a certain book or a certain type of paper, don't kind of dive in knowing that you know, confident that you know what to expect, because the results you get may be completely different based on that paper. So it's always a good idea, no matter what, to start out nice and slow, kind of get a feel for what your pencils are going to do on that particular paper. And then once you feel a little bit more confident with that particular page, then you can kind of dive in and go a little quicker. Alright, so now I'm going to go up here. And I still have 2 more colors to go after this. And then once I get those in, I'll go in with my Prismacolor colorless blender that I happen to think works wonderfully, even with the polychromos. The thing is that if you're going to use that, my advice in the Create Space books is to make sure that your blender pencil is nice and sharp and that you stay away from the line art, because it will smudge it. It took me a long time to get to a point where I could use that blender pencil in these books and not smudge the line art. You guys have a different blender, you're welcome to use that, of course, or you can use a light colored pencil like a cream or an ivory, or you know, whatever you want to use. You can go in with a cheaper pencil brand if you wanted to burnish. If you don't want to burn up your polychromos in the burnishing process, you could go get yourself a Crayola in a tan color or something and kind of go in and burnish, and that would likely work. So now I'm going back in with cinnamon. And I'm going to start almost at the very, very edge, almost over the darkest part. And I'm going to bring it up through the ochre and up into that lightest area just a little bit. Very light pressure. And then when I get where there's already almost, when my container's almost full, like where the tooth of the paper is almost completely saturated and can't take anymore, I can go ahead and push a little harder there and blend those colors and mix them together. But where there's less color, I want to be very gentle so that I don't create those harsh lines. One up around here. Go ahead and put some back there. Now see right here, I can use a little harder pressure because this is pretty well full. But as I get down here where it's lighter, I want to lighten my pressure. Be a little more careful, be a little more mindful of how hard I'm pressing. The green gold isn't going to have much room down here, but that's okay because we're underneath this ledge, so it's not going to see much sunlight anyway. It's not going to need a whole lot of highlighting. Alright, now back up here. Just going to pull this up. A little harder down in this area. A little more pressure, and then less pressure as I get to right about here. Same thing here. I can use a little more pressure up here. And then once I get down to where it's lighter, I'm going to slowly start to lighten up my pressure so I don't have any pencil lines and I don't have any harsh lines where I'm going to put my green gold back in one more time. Okay, so now as you can see, just doing that, putting all my colors in, I still have these little areas here where you can see the obvious highlights. So that's where I'm going to go back in one more time with my green gold. And I'm going to start well away from the center of it. And I'm just going to kind of come in and cover it up. I don't want to push too hard with this because I don't want to completely do away with my highlights. And so I don't want to push too hard. I want those highlights to still be noticeable. But I do want to fill in the majority of the tooth. And then when I come back in with my blender here in just a little bit, it'll brighten these colors up even more, fill in the tooth even more, and it'll look nice and smooth. So it is possible, guys, to blend out your polychromos and have them look nice, just like your Prismacolors. You just have to be a little bit more patient with them, and you have to practice with them. And like I said, if it helps you to think of your paper as like a container for color and realize, you know, consciously think about it as you're going, that, you know, you're filling that container up and you have to be mindful of it, it may help you. Okay, so now I have a super sharp Prismacolor colorless blender. Actually, it's not that super sharp. Now it is. Super sharp Prismacolor colorless blender. This is basically the same thing as a Prismacolor pencil, just without the color. So I'm going to use very small circles, and I'm going to go over the whole thing. And what I'm doing with this is with a medium heavy-ish pressure, I'm trying to force all the color that I've put down into the tooth of the paper. So instead of having that white show through, I have a more painted look. And see, you guys can see what it's doing here. See this little line right here? How much it's so much brighter right here? That's because this blender is mixing all the color together, forcing it down inside the tooth, and it's not just laying there on top of those, on the very surface of the paper. It's actually pushing it down in there. And yes, guys, this does, I'm not gonna lie, it can get a little bit tedious, but I like the transformation of it. I like watching as the colors get brighter when I'm going over it with my blender. It makes me happy. And of course, there are other ways to do this. You could use odorless mineral spirits if you like. You could use an alcohol marker, colorless blender if you'd like. For me, I find it a little bit harder to control my blend with those. When I use the pencil, I can kind of vary my blend a little bit based on the pressure that I'm using, and I like it better. It takes longer, but I like the result better. Again, it's your page. You can do whatever makes you happy. So I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and finish blending out this house, and then I'll zoom out so you guys can have a nice good look at it and decide whether or not this is something that you would like to try for yourself. I'll go over the colors that I used one more time at the end of the video. I'm going to put links to this coloring book, the Faber-Castell Polychromos. Now I'm going to link the 120 set, but if you look at it, if you wanted to buy a smaller set, you can kind of look at the quantity and change it in that link and buy whichever set you want. The 120 set's actually a really good price right now. I looked at it earlier. I think it was like less than $145, which is excellent. Mine were close to $200 when I got them. So mine were a gift from my boyfriend, but they were not $145 at that time. I can promise you that. Okay, got a little speck. I am almost finished, you guys. I just have right underneath this ledge. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen my blender up one more time. Just a word of caution. If you are going to start coloring in these books with this paper, like directly on the paper, and you like the way the blender works as much as I do, you're probably going to want to invest in more blenders. I keep like 6 of them around because I go through them like crazy. Here's my one I finished up yesterday. That's all that's left of it. Now technically I could probably like glue it on here and use a little bit more, and I very well might. But I go through them like crazy. I'm trying to get as close to the lines as I can without actually dragging the color into them. Now, in these little spots, you're not really going to be able to do much about it. You're going to get over them a little bit, but the color's darker, so you won't be able to notice it as much if you pull some of the ink out. Alright, I like this. Let me take my brush. Let me get a paintbrush here. Nice soft one so I can brush all the dust off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of zoom you guys out so you can see it better. Now see guys, the Polychromos, if you take your time, if you really take your time with it and you think about it as you're working and you're patient, you can get a really pretty paint-like blend out of them. Let me hold it up close to the camera. See guys, that's the Create Space paper. That's the super textured toothy paper that I really don't like because I don't like that textured look in my finished work. But if I take my time and use sharp pencils and then go over with the blender, I have no complaints. And the thing about it is that these books are so affordable. You know, I think I paid $8 for this book. So, you know, it's worth it. I just realized I got a little smudge here because I wasn't using my thingy. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that off there. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to go ahead and end this today. This did take us a little while, but mostly because I was kind of talking your head off the whole way through it and kind of trying to help you guys understand how to better get your Polychromos to blend. I hope that this really helped you guys out today. I hope that you can take this information in your Polychromos and go pick out your, you know, a page in one of your books and get your colors to blend and look really, really pretty like this. Guys, just remember practice and patience and have a light hand and build things up slowly. That is the trick to making your polychromos look pretty. So one more time, from light to dark, the colors I used for this are green gold, cinnamon, burnt ochre, and Indian red. And I'm actually going to write these down. Actually, before we go, let me move my book out of the way. I'm actually going to put this combo, because I like the way those colors turned out. So I am going to put that combo in there. I'm also going to write them down here on my page really quick. So we're just going to write Mushroom House. I think my ice maker's getting ready to go out. That was loud. Green gold. Cinnamon. What was that? Burnt ochre. Yeah, burnt ochre. And Indian red. Now I have that written down, so I'll remember it for next time. And I can put my pencils in my drawer. Now, because I really like this color combo, I'm going to write it down on this little sheet. So, green gold, cinnamon, burnt ochre, and Indian red. Now it's going to look a little bit different here because I'm not going to pile the colors all one on top of the other. I'm just going to do like blend them all into one another. So they're going to look a little richer and different. But that's okay. You should still be able to get the idea. So just so you guys can see how I do this too. And this is another good way, guys. This is a fabulous way to practice your blends, is to put your combos down and practice getting your gradients nice and smooth. Even here, I'm doing, you can see how light those layers are. I'm going to do probably a total of 3 layers, so that later if I need a color for something, I can look at the blends that I've done and pick one out and use it again. Nice color combos are always a good thing to have. And I really like these charts because I can fit so many. 35 on each side of my page. So there's a total of 70 different combos I can fit on one piece of paper, which is nice. And then finally the green gold. And I'm going to go in nice and heavy and then just kind of lighten it up as I come down. And I think I need to darken up my cinnamon just a smidge now. And then one more time with the Indian red. Get it nice and dark and down in the tooth. So there's another bit of advice for you guys. If you're really struggling to blend out your polychromos and make gradients like this, go get your color combo pages out and just practice. Just practice like this, because if you ruin one of these, I mean, you know, it's no big deal. You just put an X through it and do it again. Or, you know, if you can still see what you're doing, that's fine. Just go on to the next one. You can't really ruin anything. I think that's kind of something that we all need to remember. You can't do it wrong. That's the great thing about coloring. You may not be satisfied with it. You may think, man, I wish I could have blended that out a little bit more smoothly or something. But those aren't things that you're going to be able to do, you know, like the first time you try. Those are things that are going to take some time. It takes time and it takes practice. I'm well into my 2nd year of coloring now. You know, I couldn't always do this. You guys could probably go back and watch my videos from day one and see how far I've come with my coloring. And it's just doing it all the time and constantly watching videos and trying to find new ways to improve. And it's not necessarily that I think what I did before was bad either. It's more that I knew what I wanted to be able to achieve for myself, and I just didn't stop until I feel like I got there. And I'm still learning. What I'm doing now, I'm still not perfect. I'm still learning. I'm happier with the results that I get now than I was with the results I was getting beforehand. But that doesn't mean I'm done learning yet, because I'm certainly not. Alright guys, well that's going to end this color along today. So I hope that you guys learned something today. I hope that you guys are going to follow along at least as best you can. If you don't have this book, follow along in a different one. If you don't have the Polychromos, just try to match your colors the best you can. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with it, and I hope to get some more of it done either tomorrow or the next day to share with you. I am going to put affiliate links to all of this stuff. All of this stuff is going to be in a link down below under where it says products used in this video. I always put my Amazon wish list and stuff. Those things stay toward the top because it's in a template. But there's a whole section that says products used in this video, and if you go down to that, you're going to find a link to this coloring book. You're going to find a link to the Rocketbook. You're going to find a link to the Polychromos pencils. I'll put some Prismacolor blenders in there for you guys too if you want to pick some up. Keep in mind those are all affiliate links, and I do make a small commission every time you make a purchase using those links. You don't pay any more for anything by using them, but you do help to support the channel, which is really, really helpful, and it helps me make sure that I have stuff to show you guys. Aside from that, like you said, my wish list link is down in there. All the social media links are down there if you want to join the Facebook group or check out the Pinterest color palettes that I showed you earlier on in the video. You find all that down there. If you like this video and you want to see the rest of the series, be sure that you subscribe and then hit the little bell so you get a notification when the next part is up. Give the video a thumbs up if you found it helpful and you think it might help other people too. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out and color with me, and happy coloring.